You want to know which running backs are going to break out in 2022 for fantasy football? Stay tuned, you're about to find out. Welcome back, Endgaming community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris. Today we're going to talk about 6 running backs in either year 1, 2, or 3 that are ready to break out in a big way and finally fulfill their potential. All right, Chris, let's start with you. Who's your first potential breakout RB?
My first potential breakout is Javonte Williams, and this is a guy I've gone back and forth on a few times this offseason. You know, early in the offseason, it looked like Melvin Gordon wasn't coming back, and I think pretty much everybody, including myself, was all over Javonte Williams. Then they went out, traded for Russell Wilson, and the hype just got even higher, right? It's like Javonte Williams, no Melvin Gordon, with Russell Wilson, like slam dunk, no doubt about it, breakout candidate. Then Melvin Gordon came back, and we saw what happened. His ADP fell way back down, and people said, okay, it's going to be like it was last year, a 1A, 1B situation. And, you know, there was a part of me that felt like that was a possibility, but there's also a part of me that felt like, you know, Melvin Gordon's old, he's got a lot of touches. Javonte's younger, he's better. I think Javonte could pull away. But still, you know, there's still that doubt, right? Like, okay, but Gordon wasn't bad last year, so maybe he won't pull away. Well, what did we just hear last week from the man himself, Mr. Melvin Gordon? He said, I don't have the exact quote, but he said something to the effect of, they want Javonte to be the guy. And by they, he didn't mean fantasy football players like you and me. He meant the Denver coaching staff. They want Javonte to be the guy. And like I said, he's younger. He's better than Melvin Gordon at this point. Not taking anything away from Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon was a great running back in his time, but he's 29 years old, has almost 1,800 touches. He doesn't have the juice that Javonte Williams does. Javonte Williams entering year 2. He was great in the ground game, and he was also really good in the receiving game last year. He had more catches than Jonathan Taylor last year, despite splitting with Melvin Gordon. So right now, Javonte Williams still a guy that people aren't sure about. He's going kind of the late second round, sometimes even early third. And to me, that's a pick you just have to make because Javonte Williams is ready to absolutely break out in offense. It's going to be so much better than it was last year. Teams aren't going to be able to stack the box. They're going to move the ball more. They're going to have way more opportunities to score. Javonte Williams, to me, checks every box we're looking for in a breakout, and I think he's going to do it this year. And next year, we're going to be talking about him as a first-round pick.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because with Javonte, I also kind of struggle. Where do you put him? Because I don't know that he's ever going to be that true bell cow, right, for Denver and the offense. But I know he can be better than last year. You know, for the anchor RB team, is he a guy that you can really depend on to be that RB1? I think signs are pointing towards yes. And, you know, the talent is there and definitely the opportunity as far as a much better improved offense. So, yeah, I think Javonte definitely could break out in a big way. Now, I'm also kind of feeling the same way about DeAndre Swift. It's like I don't want to jump on the hype train, right? Everybody's just dying for him to break out, right? Fantasy football managers especially just want it to happen. And I've been saying no the last 2 years, and I kind of am fighting it now this year. And I'm just going all in and say yes. Okay, this is the year. If it's going to happen, it will happen this year. DeAndre Swift, look, not much has changed with Detroit. The same situation, same coach, same offense, basically the same players except for a rookie receiver who's really not going to play until November. DJ Chark, I guess that's a slight improvement in their wide receiver group, but look, it's basically the same thing. So why would Swift all of a sudden be so much better than last year? Well, number one, he's got a running back coach, Deuce Staley, who's challenging him to stay on the field. What a novel concept. Look, we know he's missed a lot of time here and there, just small dings and dents and nothing major. I think if he plays a full schedule, obviously we're going to see more touches from him, more opportunities, but also we'll finally see him unleashed. And look, we've heard good reports about his conditioning. He's ready to take on maybe a bigger workload. I think if they just trust him to be the guy and he shows that he can be the guy earlier in the season, then all of a sudden we'll see his true potential unlocked. And look, I'm not worried about Jamal Williams or Justin Jackson or Craig Reynolds or whoever else is back there. If we see DeAndre Swift, at his full capacity, there will be no timeshare, right? It's going to be the Swift show. And here's the thing. Think about last year. 78 catches. All right, in full PPR leagues, he's already got to be one of the most valuable running backs because he's going to catch a ton of passes. If he catches more, I'm not saying we're going to see a Christian McCaffrey type season from him, but look, he could easily be a top 5, if not top 3 running back in fantasy. So, look, I'm all in. If it doesn't happen this year, forget it. I don't have to draft DeAndre Swift ever again. But I think this is the year that we should go all in and take a chance on Swift breaking out. All right, Chris, who is next?
Yeah, I really like A.J. Dillon this year. I think people are sleeping on him. It's funny because last year I felt like Dillon had a lot of hype. People really thought he was going to, kind of take over that role, and he didn't. But this is the year it's actually going to happen, right? There's way more things pointing in Dillon's favor this year. Number one, Aaron Jones getting up there, 28 years old, got the touches, got the wear and tear. Number two, A.J. Dillon entering year 3, right? This is prime running back year. Year 3, year 4, year 5, that's really prime running back years. And number 3, they don't really have Devontae Adams. Well, it's not that they don't really have Devontae Adams anymore. They don't have Devontae Adams anymore, but they really don't have a true alpha wide receiver. They're probably going to have to lean on both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones more than they ever have. And what happened down the stretch last year when Aaron Jones came back from his injury? We saw signs of what we're probably going to see this year. A.J. Dillon outcarried him 65 to 48 over that stretch, and the targets were only 18 to 11 in favor of Aaron Jones. Yes, Aaron Jones will get more targets and catch more passes than A.J. Dillon this year, but A.J. Dillon is going to catch enough to be more than fantasy relevant. And I think he's going to get much more of the ground game, of the early down work, and much more of the goal line work, because that's what he's built for. He's a big bruising back. He can handle way more of a workload than Aaron Jones can. So A.J. Dillon, a guy going, 4 or 5 rounds after Aaron Jones, to me, I'm not going to go so far as to say I think he's going to outscore Aaron Jones because we know how valuable receptions are, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, and those who drafted A.J. Dillon later in the draft are going to get way more value out of him than people who drafted Aaron Jones early will out of Aaron Jones.
Yeah, look, both of them are going to have value. The thing is, you can get Dillon a couple of rounds later and definitely makes him more valuable in fantasy drafts. All right, so I'm going to talk about a guy I mentioned a few times before. I love Zamir White, and the fact he was drafted to the Raiders at first worried some people because all of a sudden there's this big, huge committee of all these running backs that are going to share time. Except now Kenyon Drake, it looks like he's on the way out. So there's one less, factor for competition there. Josh Jacobs, I get that he's still the starter, but look, let's be honest. They drafted Zamir White for a reason. Josh Jacobs will be a free agent. They declined his option. If they thought that he was the answer, then they probably wouldn't have drafted Zamir White and brought in more competition. Okay, so the worst thing people can say about Zamir White is the fact that he didn't put up huge numbers in college. Well, he was sharing time with James Cook, right? He was on a team that there's kind of tough competition when you're in the national championship team in the SEC, right? He's not a guy that's going to rack up these huge numbers going against cupcakes in the MAC or whatever, okay? He was a 5-star recruit. This is a guy who has all the ability in the world, so I'm not worried about his college stats, all right? And then we've also heard he's not, a big pass catching back. Okay, maybe not, but let me tell you what my favorite comp is right now to Zamir White, and this is a good thing. Damian Harris from last year. Remember Damian Harris? People said he doesn't catch the ball. You know what? He didn't. He barely caught the ball last year. And guess what? He was a top 20 fantasy running back because he scored 15 times, almost had 1,000 yards, and that includes missing time. So he would have had at least 1,000 yards rushing playing a full schedule. So if you think that can help you in fantasy, I suggest looking into Zamir White. Now, he might not get quite that many carries early on especially, but what I'm looking at is long term. Late in the season, that's when you care about who's starting in your fantasy team, and this is when a lot of rookies come on. Mid-season, they take over. Late season, they start to get more work. So I really like Zamir White as a guy who can help you more in the fantasy playoffs where it really matters. So his season-long stats, they might not be, to the point where he's a top 20 back. It might not be a 1,000-yard season in store for him. There probably won't be 15 touchdowns. But I think he's somebody who can help you win your league because I really see him becoming that lead back by year's end. Okay, so don't forget, by the way, that Harris comp that I talked about earlier, you know who the head coach is right now for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's Josh McDaniels, the guy who was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots and knows how to use running backs effectively. So look, Zamir White is a guy who isn't really super exciting for you on draft day because you look at the limitations, but look at the upside and think long term, not short term. All right, Chris, I know you have one more running back breakout in store.
Yeah, and I know this one's going to make you and probably a lot of people groan, but it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I get it, right? 2 years of, I don't want to say frustration, but maybe not living up to expectations. And a lot of people are like, I'm done with him, I'm off of him. But we got to look at the situation and see that there is a path here to a big-time breakout for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They signed Ronald Jones early in the offseason, and a lot of people thought, okay, that's it. They have no confidence in this guy. It's over for him. But what are we hearing now? Well, number one, Ronald Jones isn't even playing with the starters. He's behind, 7th round draft pick Isaiah Pacheco right now. And there's a chance he's going to get cut because beat writers for the Chiefs are speculating they're only going to keep 3 running backs, and that's going to be Edwards-Helaire, McKinnon, and Pacheco. So he's no longer a threat. Jerick McKinnon, look, I love Jerick McKinnon. I've loved Jerick McKinnon for years. He was great last year when they needed him, but he's not a guy that's built to be the guy. He's great when you need him. He's great at what he does, but he needs, 10 to 15 touches max. Pacheco, again, a lot of hype right now, but we're talking about a 7th round draft pick. Let's not get crazy here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now in the preseason when the starters have been on the field has been the lead guy. He's been getting 60, 70+% of the snaps. And that is all he really needs to break out because he's in an offense who's going to run a lot of plays, going to move the ball up and down the field, and have a lot of chances to score. He doesn't need to be, a 20 carry, 4 to 5 catch guy to break out this year, especially where you're drafting him, which is, towards the late single digit rounds. If he's getting you 12 to 15 carries every week, 1 or 2 goal line opportunities, and he's catching, 3-ish passes every week, he's going to have a great season because of the offense he's in. Teams can't worry about the running game. They play that, a lot of teams play that, 2 high safety matchups against the Chiefs because they don't want Patrick Mahomes to beat them. They'll give up yardage on the ground. And Edwards-Helaire, despite being, I guess, a disappointment so far, has actually not been bad as a real-life running back. He just, hasn't stayed healthy and hasn't lived up to basically what we wanted him to be when the Chiefs drafted him in the 1st round. But I think this year, you can't overlook the fact that breakout potential is absolutely there for him. Again, another 3rd year back, right in that sweet spot. So for me, I'm grabbing him every chance I can. I've tried to acquire him in dynasty leagues where I can. It may come back to bite me. I may look back and be like, what was I thinking? But I'm sinking with the ship, I guess. I think he's got breakout potential this year, and I'll take him every chance I can.
At least I will say this is the first year his ADP is actually reasonable. So I'm with you. Look, there's definitely touchdown upside there. So not a bad draft pick. I can't say I'm off of him because I was never really on him, but I could be proven wrong this year. All right, so I just finished talking about Damian Harris and the Patriot system. And you know what? As much as I'd love to say Damian Harris, he kind of already broke out last year, but I'm also kind of sad to say that as much as I was on Damian Harris last year, I am sort of off this year because Ramondre Stevenson is now kind of maybe taken over. It's not official. Look, right now, the last thing we heard is they're both going to be guys that work on all 3 downs. That's curious because Damian Harris never worked at all on 3rd downs, and he doesn't catch passes, as I've already said. Ramondre Stevenson, that really was never his thing. He's a bigger back, right? So it's kind of odd, but look, they're being forced. Bill Belichick, should I say, is being forced to switch gears because James White, well, his career is basically over now. So there is no guy that just naturally fits that 3rd down pass catching role. Brandon Bolden used to be a Patriot favorite, and he went to Vegas with Josh McDaniels. Pierre Strong, obvious reasons, love the name, Doesn't look like he's doing very well in the preseason, honestly. Thought he might be the guy to take that role. He's just not impressing. He might not even make the final cut. We don't know yet. So it looks like it's going to be Harrison Stevenson. So at the very least, you got a timeshare here, but we're hearing more and more good things about Ramondre Stevenson, and that makes me think he's the guy you want to draft, as far as Patriots running backs, if that's your thing. Now, look, I know trusting Patriots running backs, it's been a, 2-decade long, just curse, I guess, of drafting a guy and being disappointed. We weren't disappointed last year with Harris. I don't think you'll be really disappointed with either one of these guys, but I think Ramondre is really the guy that you should favor because I think he's going to get more receptions. And you know what? He might wind up scoring just as many times as Harris this year. So as much as it pains me to kind of fade my guy who paid off for me big time last year with Damian Harris, I'm kind of jumping to Team Ramondre this year, and I think that he could be this year's breakout. All right, guys, that does it. Those are our favorite breakout running backs. Don't miss all our draft strategies and sleepers and busts. We're here to help you dominate your draft.